Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to another episode of Jay's Latest. I am your host, Craig Borden. Let's step up on the plate and see what happens here because it was a heck of a night in LA last night. Kind of at points in this game, it was almost similar to the point where who wanted to win the game because there were some points in this game that it was so rough to watch that I was like, the Blue Jays don't deserve to win this game. And then they finally did some things here. The Anaheim Angels jumped right up to a 4-0 lead in the first two innings. It was just a roller coaster last night. So let's just dive into it because right off the bat, like I mentioned, Chris Bassett actually, had a rough outing at the end of the day. But like I said, the Blue Jays were able to turn that frown upside down by being able to just put up a crooked number finally for the first time in a long time. And that worked out really well. 8-5 win for the Toronto Blue Jays on 14 hits. But this is the thing I was saying as far as the ups, the downs, the all over the place part. Two errors last night, and one at a critical point in the game where, I can't say it was not an easy play. I can't blame it completely on Bo Bichette. So, but to that point, it was just like, oh, of course that happened, kind of like level of an error, right? So, that being said, the offense did, like I said, finally put up a crooked number, and that was after a bunch of good things happening in the third inning. Dalton Varsho knocks in a couple during the game period, and one on a home run later in the game to put a cherry on top. Went 3 for 4 last night. Really cool to see Varsho starting to come to the party. But like I said, he kind of capped off started off the scoring. That same inning, the Blue Jays kept stacking runners around the bases. Kirky also hit a nice one, and so did Addison Barger the following inning. So the train was moving. We're in this game, even though we were down 4-0 at the you know basically inception of this ball game. In the fifth inning, like I said, we're inching back in the fourth and finally get things moving. In the sixth, Anthony Santander was flipped around from the left side to the right by putting the lefty in on the mound for the Angels, and he makes them pay on the first pitch, even nonetheless. So he ambushed him for a double. No, sorry, I thought it was a double. It was a single. It just drove in a double of runs. But Santander's starting to swing it. I really think that there's something coming out for him for the power's been showing. It's nice to see him making, good barrels at this point. So I think the right things are happening for Anthony Santander for this offense to start picking up. And then sack fly by Varsho. That was his second RBI. Um, like I said, monster night for Dalton Varsho with 3 RBIs. Addison Barger with another one. He had two last, or no, we had one last night, but he was clutch in both those performances. And then, like I said, Dalton Varsho puts the cherry on top with a monster home run. And one, if you watch that highlight, you knew it was gone as soon as he touched it. It was a beautiful power stroke from Dalton Varsho. So what else is going on? Because basically we've been talking cashing in runners is the problem of the season. The Blue Jays finally came up with some clutch hitting at some certain points. They went 6 or 15 last night with runners in scoring position, but those six hits turned into the majority of their runs. They actually did finally hit some clutch hitting later in the game. Because if you want to know how this game started, this is where the interesting flip of the script is. The Blue Jays loaded the bases on the first three batters of the game yesterday. So Bo and Bo Vladdy Santander were on base, right? And then the next three batters struck out. There was nobody out. It was infuriating. Because all you had to do was hit the ball into play and you would have gotten at least one run. But when they couldn't even put the ball on or the bat on the baseball, that doesn't help with anything, party people. So hopefully this is a sign of some things to come, or at least showing a pulse. The bats are starting to wake up. Santander's getting closer. Varsho's hitting the ball well. Hopefully some of these other pieces come into play. And I want to give credit to George Springer last night, who technically went 0 for 2, but he scored 3 runs. So that gives you the point of getting people on base needs to be the solution, and then finding a way to come up with a walk, a hit, put the ball in play, see what happens. Can't keep striking out with guys in scoring position. And just in case you weren't aware of this, the Blue Jays are near the bottom of the league in runs average, or runs per game average. I think we're in the 3.45 with a league average is somewhere around 5 or just under 5. So we're almost a full run behind the league average in runs scored. So they got to find a way to correct that if they want to be a true contender. And the funny thing is, like I said, they're not doing bad in hits. No power. We're last place with 25 home runs. So hopefully some of these things start breaking loose because we can't rely on our pitching completely all day, every day, even though it was pretty good last night. So let's talk about that one because Bassett, like I said, got off to a really rough start, giving up those couple home runs in the first few innings, totaling up for 4 earned runs on 8 hits. Technically had a 5 because of the one error, as I mentioned. But at the end of the day, Bassett still got us the length, got us 109 pitches, and was able to keep this thing moving for the bullpen. So it was a normal evening. Yariel Rodriguez coming up monster clutch for the Blue Jays last night. 5 strikeouts and 2 innings of work. Only allowed the 1 base runner on a hit. So Rod might have found something. I'm not gonna, don't knock on desk here, but maybe there's something brewing there for the A-Rod. And then giving the other 2 gentlemen at the back of our bullpen a day off or a mind-clearing zen moment, whatever you want to call it. Chad Green picks up his first save of the season and locks it down in his 1 inning of work with 2 strikeouts to secure a Blue Jay win for the first time in what feels like forever, because it's been a problem the last 4 games at least, especially. Haven't been able to hold that lead in the late innings, even though the offense has scored 3 or 4 runs each game. So let's keep the party thing moving because this road trip is going to continue. We avoided the sweep. Thank God. Because that was going to be rough to watch. And I can't believe I think my slides is going to all just screwed up. Anyway, so on that note, the Blue Jays fans, going up to Seattle. We're going to be playing the Mariners, and it's going to be a heck of an ace matchup tonight. We're going to see Kevin Gausman versus Luis Castillo. Castillo always finds a way to destroy the Toronto Blue Jays over his career. He's off to yet another great start to his season with a 3.29 ERA in 38 innings. He's been hard to hit. It's going to be rough. Hopefully, they can find some way to line up and get some balls to for base hits, and that's what we need to tonight. 33 strikeouts already also in those innings for Luis Castillo. Facing Kevin Gausman, who has been very up and down, but he's been overall very, very good. He had an insanely good outing that I happened to be at over against Cleveland. 6 innings of work in that last outing, only allowing the 1 hit and 9 strikeouts. Just a little bit good, which was a heck of a bounce back after getting beaten up in basically single innings throughout his outings, the piece of that before. So hopefully things are going to be moving in the right direction as they wrap this road trip up. Blue Jays haven't had a terrible amount of success against Luis Castillo, as I mentioned. Andres Jimenez is probably not going to be playing. He's one of the ones that has a home run against Castillo along with Alejandro Kirk. But the problem is that Vlad's the only one in this current projection that has a decent batting average in I'll say an actual sample size against Luis Castillo. Everybody else is sub 200. Eep. Anyway, Blue Jays fans, make sure you tune in here and we'll talk all Jays things all day, every day. And we'll talk tomorrow morning. Cheers, everybody. Go Blue Jays.